Wrestling Days, and welcome to Wrestling Days Live. This is a predictions video. This is a predictions video for Backlash. So we are doing our predictions for Backlash. Backlash is this weekend. We will be doing a watch along for it. So we do have that coming up as well. So we're going to be going through all of the matches. There's only 7 matches actually for us to go through. So not loads for us to discuss. And I've got to be honest, not the strongest card I've ever seen either. I really kind of was hoping for better than this. But here we are. This is what we've got. And it's still going to be, I think, quite an interesting show. So I am still looking forward to it. Of course, it is going to be coming from the Performance Center. It is going to be coming from WWE Performance Center, as we said, with, I think, a crowd of Performance Center recruits. Certainly no crowds allowed in still at this stage. So we are still waiting to get back to full crowds. And I do think the show might suffer as a result by not having a crowd. And as I said, not the strongest lineup. But we're going to go through the 7 matches that have been announced so far. So let's get straight into it, shall we? The first match, Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. It's cut the bottom off for some reason, but Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus, that is the first match we're going to go through. This really does feel like the big story of the summer. You know, I would say that's the biggest thing that they've done so far on the regular shows. When they had the accident to start SmackDown. So I kind of feel like this is going to continue. I also think that the person that was spotted with the red beard and the red hair, I don't think that was Sheamus. Jeff Hardy has blamed Sheamus, but I don't think it's Sheamus because I think this is a story that's going to continue. I could see Jeff Hardy winning here, getting revenge. You know, Jeff Hardy has been very, very clear that he was not driving that car. He passed all of the tests. So, you know, he had no alcohol in his body. People are really split on this as well. I don't mind this story. I think that as long as Jeff's all right with it, no one's getting hurt with this story. It's a story that could actually be used to show that Jeff is over his demons. It could be a story that's actually used to kind of distance us from this. I mean, it's been such a public problem that Jeff has had. You know, he's constantly been getting arrested. We all know about his substance abuse. And, you know, this has really plagued Jeff's career. And people were asking me when Jeff came back, would you put the world title on him? Would you give him a Universal? Would you give him a WWE title? And I said no. I said no, because he's not reliable. You can't rely on Jeff Hardy. You don't know how long you're going to have Jeff around for. Now, if they're using this story to try and convince us that's in the past, and they're trying to convince us that they are looking to put the title on him, or they are looking to do something substantial with Jeff, and they're using this as a part of that story, I'm on board. No one gets hurt. If Jeff's all right with it, I'm all right with it. Yeah, let's see where it goes. The other interesting thing about it is the hacker could reveal the truth. The hacker could get involved here. I've been looking all down this card to try and find where could the hacker get involved. The hacker could get involved here, and the hacker could come out and say it wasn't Sheamus. Sheamus wasn't the one. Here's the truth. And they could reveal that footage from CCTV. There was also a woman who was filming something. She could also reveal what she was filming. And maybe she's got the footage of who it was that was responsible. Now, names like Sami Zayn come to mind. And Sami Zayn makes a lot of sense because, of course, he was the Intercontinental Champion. He's going to be upset at the fact that that title was taken away from him. He's been very public on social media. He does not agree with this Intercontinental Championship tournament. He was the champ. He never lost the championship. Could it be that out of frustration, he's tried to take out a couple of the competitors? That would be a motive. So, yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. I think that Jeff needs some redemption here. And so I'm going to go with Jeff Hardy picking up the win. And then we'll have to see if the hacker does strike. So Jeff Hardy with the win. Next up, we've got the Women's Tag Team Championship match. I didn't write everyone down. There's 3 teams in this. You've got the Iconics. You've got Bayley and Sasha. You've also got Alexa and Nikki. Now, I did look at this, and I thought, could the hacker strike here as well? Because I really feel like the hacker's going to strike. He's not been around for a while, so I really feel like he's going to make his presence felt on this show. So I looked at this one, and I was like, well, what can he reveal? Really, what can he reveal? I mean, I don't think the Iconics are going to split. I really don't think that's a good move. I know there's been teases of it, but I just don't think that it makes any sense. Bayley and Sasha have been teasing splitting. We really don't need the hacker to get involved there, because we can all see that there's problems. The hacker, that's not like a truth that's going to be, mind-blowing. So I wouldn't have the hacker getting involved there. Maybe Alexa and Nikki could be interesting to split them up. But to be honest, do we need to split them up? I mean, they've been together for a little while, and they work quite well together. Even if they're not doing tag team work, just having them kind of in each other's corners, I don't really see the problem. I mean, if the hacker is going to reveal an issue between like Alexa and Nikki, is it that big of a deal? I don't know. There's nothing here that feels huge. The biggest split here is Bayley and Sasha, and we all know it's coming. So the hacker, there's not really anything there that I think's too surprising. So I wouldn't have him involved here. That's why I think the Jeff Hardy Sheamus would really benefit from the hacker. So I'm going to say that Bayley and Sasha retain. And I'm going to say that they're just going to keep using this to keep planting those seeds. Everyone's waiting for that turn. I don't think it's yet. I think the big match between these two is going to take place at SummerSlam. That's still a little way down the road. That's 2 months away? I think the next show is Extreme Rules, and then after that is SummerSlam. So you would think that Bayley Sasha is the match for SummerSlam. So maybe the turn happens at Extreme Rules. Maybe this is the final tease, big tease, that something's going to happen. But we don't get it here, because I think they're waiting for SummerSlam, and that's still a little way off yet. Feel free in the chat to keep firing your thoughts across. I can see a lot of people saying Iconics could get the win here. I don't disagree with that. I think Iconics have got a very good chance to get a victory here and get those titles back here. But I don't know. I'm just personally not a fan of putting the titles onto Bayley and Sasha and then taking them away so soon. And as I said, I don't think the split needs to happen now if the match is going to be at SummerSlam. Maybe it's a little bit soon to take the titles away. It's a little bit far away from SummerSlam. My gut feeling is we just ride this out just a touch longer. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with my gut. My gut's telling me Bayley and Sasha retain. Next up, we got Apollo versus Andrade. I'm starting to hear rumblings of people saying maybe this is bad news for Apollo. Of course, the news coming through today that Paul Heyman has left Raw, which means that Bruce Pritchard is going to be running Raw and SmackDown. Does Bruce Pritchard have the confidence in Apollo that Paul Heyman did? Paul Heyman really was pushing Apollo. Now Apollo's gone. What Apollo's gone? Now that Paul Heyman has gone, what does it mean for Apollo? So I think they are going to keep the title on Apollo. Hopefully they've got bigger plans for Andrade. But honestly, Apollo's days could be numbered, because I don't know if Bruce Pritchard rates him or not. For a long time, he was just bobbing around the low end of the card. And as I said, with Paul Heyman now being gone, are they going to stick to the original plans, or are they going to mix things up? The rumors are Paul Heyman has gone because Raw's ratings are awful. I mean, even Drew McIntyre needs to be a little bit nervous. Raw's ratings historically have never been under 2 million. And then a few months ago, when like we started doing these performance center shows, they went down to 1.9. Now it's about 1.78, 1.79 each week. Like the numbers are through the floor. So I really think that there's going to be a lot of heads that roll. Obviously, Paul Heyman has gone. But the numbers aren't great for this Drew McIntyre title reign, so he needs to be nervous. Apollo Crews doesn't really carry the weight of the ratings as much. But again, you know, if they've got other ideas, they might not stick with him as US champ. So I'm going to say that they'll keep the title on him here, but be nervous. Next, we've got Asuka versus Nia Jax, and here I have got Asuka retaining. I think they've already teased a bigger match between Asuka and Charlotte. And Nia Jax, I mean, how can they have confidence in her to carry the title? It doesn't make any sense, you know. She keeps injuring Kairi Sane, and I think they can see it as well, that she's too rough around the edges, and I just don't know how you could put one of your big championships on her. So I'm not feeling it. I'm not on the Nia Jax hype train, and I'm sure most of you aren't as well. So I'm going to say that Asuka, who has been an MVP of this lockdown and has only recently been given that women's championship, I'm going to say that she retains here, and we're actually going to build towards Asuka Charlotte program, and maybe we're going to be looking at Asuka Charlotte for SummerSlam. Maybe that's the plan for SummerSlam, so we'll have to wait and see. Next, we got Braun versus Miz and Morrison. I was thinking, could the Hacker strike here reveal some truth about Miz and Morrison? But honestly, I don't think so. They seem to be getting on. They were just pulling pranks like the other day. So I don't think there's any reason to split them up at this stage. I think a split will happen, but I can't see the Hacker being involved. If anything, the Fiend. We're at the point now where we're gonna get the Fiend. The rumors are the Fiend had been away because obviously Bray Wyatt's just had another child. So he is due to return, and it looks like he will be coming back at Backlash. I can see the Fiend retaining, and then the Fiend. I can see Braun Strowman retaining, the Fiend appearing, and then we take it from there. So yeah, this clearly wasn't a program that had finished at Money in the Bank. As soon as Funhouse Bray had lost, then we started to see those just glimpses of the Fiend. So I feel that the Fiend is going to make his presence felt, and then we move forward with Braun and the Fiend. I really do think that the plan wasn't to have Bray out of the picture for so long, but obviously when Bray had his kid, they needed a stopgap. They needed just something. They needed Braun to face someone. What can we do whilst Bray's away? Miz, Morrison, how about we go there, do a handicap match? And honestly, I think that's the extent of the thinking. I don't think this is going to be a universal title change. I don't think we're going to have co-champions or anything like this. I think that I think that was it. I think that was the thought process. I think they were going to do Fiend versus Bray after Money in the Bank. Bray's kid came along. They gave him time off. They needed something, anything. They went with this handicap match. It was a good way of getting Miz and Morrison onto the show, who might not have been on this show otherwise. And that's it. Bray retains, and we get Bray versus The Fiend at Extreme Rules. I can see us building towards that. 2 matches to go then, my friends. We got Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. Lots of rumours that Bobby Lashley is going to get the title here. Apparently, MVP has been put with Lashley so that he can have a title run. I think that's a red herring. I think that's been put out there to throw you off the scent. I think Drew McIntyre is a long-term project. I would be stunned if he loses the title. I would be stunned if they take that title off Drew McIntyre. I really don't see it happening. I know that I said that heads will roll because of the ratings. But I think that Bruce is going to come in. He's going to have a look at everything. He's going to try a few things. And if those few things that he tries doesn't work, then he'll look at changing the champions. But I think right now, I don't think it's in his plans to change the champions or take that title from Drew. And to be honest, it would be too soon. It would be far too soon to take that title from Drew McIntyre. So I'm going to say Drew McIntyre retains. And that brings us to what could be the main event. I have no idea. Edge versus Randy Orton. The greatest wrestling match ever. WTF, right? I mean, honestly, where have they pulled this from? What are they even on about? I've got to say, I started this by saying I think it's quite a weak card, and I still stand by that. I think this is quite a weak card. There's not even a cinematic match to grab your attention. If you think about WrestleMania, where you had Boneyard, you had Firefly Funhouse. If you think about Money in the Bank, you had the Money in the Bank match. If you think about NXT TakeOver in your house, they had a backlot brawl. Like, cinematic matches have been a thing during this lockdown period. I'm stunned that they haven't got one here. I'm amazed that there is no cinematic match, nothing a little bit different. I think that in order to hook us in, they've gone with this greatest wrestling match ever tagline. I don't know that they believe that it's possible. I don't know that they even care. I think its sole purpose is to get you to tune in. That is it. That is it. They are going to get you to tune in to see what happens. What have they got planned? The rumours are this match has been recorded. It's about half an hour long. I don't know if that's true. I don't quite know what to expect. I certainly am not expecting the greatest wrestling match of all time. So, yeah, this is a tough one to call. In fact, this whole card is quite difficult to call because they could really freshen things up and go in some new directions. And certainly following the news today that Paul Heyman has gone, that really does make you think, are they really just going to rip this up and go wild? Or are they going to stick with the plans that were in place? Or I think they're going to play safe. I think that they're going to give you a pretty standard show. I think that you will get the Hacker, you will get the Fiend, and that'll be pretty much your big talking points. In regards to this match, I think that Orton wins. And honestly, I hope Orton wins. I like Edge. And the fact that he's returned. And I know that people will be supporting Edge. I very much believe, though, that Edge has been away for, 9 years? I don't think you can go away for 9 years having the injuries and being as inactive as what Edge was, and then expect to come back and have a wrestling match and beat someone of the caliber of Randy Orton. Whatever you think about Randy Orton, he is one of the greats. He is great. He is a great professional wrestler. His matches might not set the world on fire, but he is more than competent in the ring. So I really feel that the story here is that Edge has got great heart, and he showed that at WrestleMania. And then here they have this match. And I think Edge is going to show great heart again. I think Edge is going to dig deep. I think they're going to have a good match. I don't know that it goes that half an hour. I would think they would want to show that Edge is capable of having a wrestling match. I would think they would want to show that Edge can go. But for me, I think he's going to come up just a touch short. But I think what's quite exciting is if they can get more matches out of Edge, because there's lots of rumors that he's only signed like a very short kind of contract. He's only actually scheduled to have like 4 or 5 matches. If they can get more matches out of him, they can always revisit this further down the road. And once he's got some matches under his belt, he can actually show the improvement. And I really like that story. I really like the fact that he could fail here against Orton, but they could do this match in a year's time and Edge wins that one. And again, it just shows that he's got rid of that ring rust, that he is back in the groove, the Edge is back. Do you remember last year I beat you? Well, I'm going to do it again. You know, I can just see that kind of a build. So I like Edge. If Edge wins, then fine. It's a feel-good moment, whatever. But I think it makes more sense in story to have Orton win. Now, where do you go after this? Do you have a sign of respect between the two of them? Do they embrace? Do we get rated RKO? You know, joining forces? Could that be something that we explore? Or I think that might be the bigger question. What happens after this match? You know, a lot of people want to know, is this going to be the greatest wrestling match ever? I think you've got to say highly unlikely. The bigger question being, though, where do we go next? What happens next? Is it rated RKO reform? And maybe that's how the show ends, with the two standing together and a sign of respect or something along those lines. I know things got really personal with like Christian, and they were talking about Edge's mom on the Go Home show and all of this. You know, Christian was trying to fire up Edge, and it was a really, really good segment. And as I said, you know, if Edge does go on to win, then so be it. You know, he can dig into all of that and rely on his heart. But I just really do think that heart isn't enough sometimes. Maybe that's not like a nice story to tell or whatever, but we've seen it in UFC this year. There's been a few tragedies in UFC where fighters have lost loved ones, and then just so happens that a few weeks later, a few months later, they have to have a fight. I mean, we saw it at UFC recently where one of the fighters had, in the week of the fight, a couple of weeks or so before the fight, he'd lost his brother. And he steps into the octagon, and it's like, you don't always win those fights. You don't always win those fights. Heart can only get you so far, you know. So, I don't know. For me, it makes more sense Orton winning, but maybe that would be a little out of sync with what the people would want. But I've gone with Orton anyway. I've gone with Orton, but it could be Edge. It could be Edge. But it won't be the greatest wrestling match ever. So there are my predictions written down. As I said, that main event one, if it is the main event, I think is a little tricky to call. But I could see Edge getting the respect from Orton, and that being the story. I think Drew McIntyre picking up the win and retaining makes sense. Braun Strowman retaining makes sense. Asuka retaining makes sense. Apollo retaining makes sense. I mean, they're all new champions. I mean, Asuka and Apollo have only been champs for a few weeks. Braun and Drew both won their titles at WrestleMania. I mean, you could look at it and go, what, are we really saying that no one is going to lose their titles? I mean, everyone's new. Bayley and Sasha just won the titles the other day. Apollo the other week. Asuka the other week. Braun and Drew at WrestleMania. I really don't see Braun losing the title to Miz. If anyone's going to lose the title there, maybe Apollo. Maybe Apollo. Maybe the women's tag match. Maybe the Iconics. But, don't know. I feel like that's... It doesn't feel like losing the titles is going to be enough to split up Bayley and Sasha. Those are my thoughts. Let's just quickly jump in and get the thoughts of people that are joining us in the chat right now. Wrestling Days fan says, good predictions. Shout out to you, my friend. Butter Spark says, if they do face again, that'll be known as the greatest wrestling match ever. Donald says, I think Randy will win. The Fiend will help Braun, and then he will come back. Yeah, that's in line with what I think as well. Max says, I'd like to see Ciampa versus Sheamus. That's interesting. Bliss and Cross will win, says John Cena Game. I've got to say, out of all of the options, Bliss and Cross are my least likely. My least likely to pick up the win there, if I'm being honest. Hello to Ambrose Asylum. Hello to everyone that's joining us. J14 says, I agree with those predictions. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not an easy one, this. I'm going to be perfectly honest. It's not an easy one because even I sit here and think, wow, am I really saying all the champs are going to retain? Like, even I just sit here and think, it just doesn't feel right. But if you go on a match-by-match basis, that's honestly how I see each match going. So I suppose I am saying all the champs are going to retain. The talking points I don't think will be new champions. It's going to be The Fiend finally coming back since Money in the Bank. It's going to be the Hacker finally appearing again after all that time. I think those are your two big talking points. Charlie, shout out to you. BOD says we need the full Nelson. We do. I agree with that. James TSL, shout out to you, my friend. Titan War says, what do you think about Ciampa and Randy and their Twitter exchange? That's a very good question. My feeling on that is that I don't think it was planned. And actually, there's even news reports coming through that Vince is very upset with that little Twitter feud, because that is not a match that they're looking to tell or looking to book. So Vince doesn't appreciate superstars taking business into their own hands. So I think that was a very real Twitter feud. I think Ciampa was standing up for NXT, a promotion that he's very passionate about. And I think Randy Orton was just being Randy Orton, in all fairness. So I wouldn't expect Tommaso Ciampa to be getting involved in that main event. There could be some outside interference in it. It could be that the match is getting pretty good and then someone interferes, but I think that would be so cheap, But then saying that, that's totally a WWE thing that they would do. So let's not rule it out, shall we? Donald Jackson says Lana will kiss and then slap Drew in the face. Robin813 says, Days, do you think Randy Orton will be sent to NXT? I don't think so. Randy Orton is not the kind of guy that's going to be putting anyone over. Let's put it that way. So I'm not sure how much value he brings to NXT. He certainly brings name value. And he'll certainly give and have matches with some up-and-comers, but he ain't going to put them over. So, I don't know. Maybe in a short-term thing, it might be all right. Maybe he could have a little feud with someone. Obviously, Orton would get the better of that feud. But maybe just, having good matches with Orton would be enough to elevate someone, Coaster Maniacs live stream about to start. I have got one eye on the time, so get your final thoughts in. We are just a few moments away from wrapping this up. Raphael says, Days, shout out. My predictions are the same as yours. Shout out to you, my friend. When will we ever know who the hacker is? It's a great question. I honestly would have thought that even if we hadn't found out the identity, we would have found out another truth be revealed by this point, which is why we're long overdue, which is why they've got to surely be making an appearance at Backlash. So keep those fingers crossed. Texas Ranger fan says, I think it could be Sammy that set Jeff Hardy up as well. I love heel Charlotte, says Sandra. I love heel Charlotte as well, and I think she will be the next opponent for Asuka. So with that said, we do have to wrap up. Just a quick little half an hour, if you will, stream. I know Coaster Maniacs live stream is starting now. So thank you to everyone that joined us here and listening to my thoughts on this. We will be doing the watch along for Backlash this Sunday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you join us for that. Thank you for watching and sharing your thoughts. And hopefully I see you again next time. Bye for now.